as you guys know, when I write a book, I go and do the stuff in the book. I go to the places in the book, and I do, like when I did Island of Sequin Lebanon, I learned to fly helicopters a little bit. And for this book, I learned to paint a little bit. I thought I could write about it with some authority if I had done it a little bit. Of those two things, I would say if you're going to try one, learn to paint a little bit, because learning to fly helicopters a little bit is not, it's really not something you want to know a little bit how to do. On my first lesson, it was a friend of mine who was teaching me, and he took me up to 1,600 feet, and you have to talk through the headsets, and he said, Chris, in the movies, when the pilot has a heart attack and the non-pilot calls the tower and the tower talks them into landing the aircraft, and I go, yeah, and he goes, if I have a heart attack, your life expectancy is about 15 seconds. And I said, really? How is your cholesterol? So I went through, I painted, I filled our whole house with red cars. I went through my red car period, because cars are way easier to paint than people. And then I went through my, I didn't go through a blue period. Although if you go through a blue period, see a urologist, or it's much the same as the kitchen fire, thing. Yeah, I know it's a bad joke, but it's in the routine now. I just gesture more, so you don't realize how bad it is. And I tried some of those Georgia O'Keeffe flowers that look like lady parts, but my girlfriend kept falling off the vase. So, but I gained new respect for Georgia because, in spite of being a remarkable painter, I mean, she was, presumably those are self-portraits, so she was limber. The book doesn't cover that part in history, but that would have been sort of an interesting. Anyway, any questions? So anyway, I wrote this book. I want to look back around to where I started, which is to say, this has been an extraordinary adventure to find out how these people worked to be able to do the art that they love to do, and we have it now. And I am in a position of thanking you for allowing me to do that, so thank you. Now, do you have any questions?
So has studying that done anything in terms of your photography?
Has studying that done anything in terms of my photography? Yeah, composition-wise, sure. When she was talking about, I was doing in Hawaii, I was learning sumi ink painting, and you learn the sort of Asian theory of composition, which is equal amount of space and object, and then when you do sort of Western art, you learn the thirds thing, and so yeah, I learned things like the values, color values and stuff. I don't talk about that in the book because it's really inside baseball sort of painty stuff, but yeah, I think it did. I think it affected. Looking at art, just as I said, it's the perception. I mean, anybody with the equipment that's out there today, with this equipment that's on your phone, you can take great pictures. Anybody can, but you have to see the picture, and that's maybe where looking at all this art has improved, because things start to click. You start to see juxtapositions within a frame, and so yeah, it has. It's not something that's easy to define, but I think it has affected my photography somewhat. Any other questions? Sure.
So in the ebook age now, do you get more or less support when you want to do a book filled with blue ink and color plates?
You would think that if you proposed the idea of a book that was valuable as an object, when the entire publishing world has their hair on fire about ebooks, that I would have gotten a lot of support. What I got was like just a huge ration of shit for a year. Every single element was a battle. You guys know, if you follow me on Facebook, we were doing those cover surveys. They had long ago decided what the cover was going to be. I just kept running surveys because they would, somebody would call me and they'd go, we're going to do that hat cover, and I'd go, yeah, I know. I go, but 6,000 people like the blue girl. How many people around the office did you ask? and that went on and on and on. I had a call. This book we do for areas like Kansas where I never go, and I have no intention of going, because it sucks. and let me say right here before you think, wait, that seems politically incorrect. If you think Kansas is awesome, you're there. If you're from Kansas and you're here, you know what I'm talking about. There were 500 people in Seattle, and I said that about Kansas, because I'm not going there. I'll get to your question. And this guy stood up at question time, and he goes, why are you slamming people like me from Kansas? And I said, okay, there's about 70% women in this audience. Look around. Do you want to tell them what to do with their reproductive junk? And there was 70%, because that's my readership. And he said, no. And I said, then I'm not talking about you. Sit down. So anyway, fuck Kansas. But, what was the question? Yeah, who cares, right? Yeah, everything was a battle. Everything was a battle. They threw in the blue ink and the maps on the front. Sort of as like, hey, we were kind of assholes for the last year. It was like Flowers. After they were drunk and like broke the waffle iron, or some, I don't know, guy thing. Half of my team is female. But yeah, it was a battle, and now all I'm getting is feedback is this is awesome. They're like, people, I bought the ebook, but now I'm going to get the hardcover too because it's cool. Imagine if we hadn't had to put the censor band on here. Wow, I'm loud. I mean, this had like Art Nouveau gold type and stuff on it, but they had, because the Barnes & Noble buyer is from Kansas and knew that the entire world would fall if there was a cartoon girl in the front of a book. This from my publisher who published How to Make Love Like a Porn Star. This from my publisher who almost published If I Did It by OJ. Now they're all of a sudden, a cartoon girl on the cover, the end of Western civilization as we know it. So, no, it wasn't easy. Any other questions? Yeah, sure.
This actually is my introduction to you and your work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if on your website there's information about your shirts.
Introduction to my work. Tonight is your introduction or this book?
No, both.
Oh. Usually people are prepared. I'm just worried about you is what it is. You mean my shirts that I sell? Or the ones that I wear?
I don't know. You mentioned
I do not
shirts.
sell these. These are sold by Robert Graham and the lovely and talented Charlie bought these for me, and because I dress like a straight guy basically, and therefore have no sense of fashion. But the ones I sell are like T-shirts. I don't sell them. There's a guy who sells them.
But this one was from
Robert Graham.
Robert Graham. Okay.
Yeah, and the guy on Modern Family, Cal, is that his name? Wears them. That's I guess a lot of famous people wear them. Yeah. But
now you're famous.
Yeah, no, well that's right. That's how they were sold to me. A lot of famous people
You
wear
could go
them.
on the
So you don't have to
be
feel
like
weird.
And say,
Yeah.
I'm rich.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm famous for being famous. Or my cuffs are a different color than the rest of it. But yeah, these are not my design that you know of.
Enjoyable.
Sure.